Guys, and welcome to today's video. So today I had a little think. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, so I think I'm going to do top 5 most forgotten about champions. So these are champs where you see them come out of a crystal and you think, oh yeah, I forgot he was in the game. Or maybe you see them on a path and you think, oh, I forgot they were there. Or they're just so meh that you just forget about them. So that's basically the list. You know, it's nothing too important. It's just a top 5, just a little fun top 5 to see if there's any champs who here who you think, oh, you know what, I actually forgot he was in the game as well. So we're gonna start off with the honorable mentions, and if I just change it to 6 stars so that I don't see repeats of the same champs. Little honorable mentions are champs like Yondu. Yondu, I think he's a little bit of a forgotten champ. However, because you've seen him in Marvel films, and he does have his uses, and he's on a lot of paths while questing. He's not so much of a forgotten champ, rather one that is a bit mid, that he's neither here nor there. And then you've also got champs on the complete opposite scale, like Ghost Rider, who they're not forgotten about because people know them and they used to be good, but now, more or less, when you see them, you think, oh, that is a shame. I don't really want Ghost Rider. So there are sort of two ways of doing this list. You've got the champs who are really bad that you just forget about, or you get the champs who just are old good champs but no longer useful. So let's take no more time and jump into the list. So coming in at number 5 is going to be a champ who, I think it was a science champ coming in at number 5. I apologise, I'm just going to have to do another check. It was. So this is a champ who's desperate for a buff. He really needs one, but is a little bit forgotten. You don't see him on many paths anymore. He's not put on them, and he just is terrible. And that for me is Sentry. I think you've got a few people like Legacy sort of talking about him, so you do remember that he's in the game, and because he's desperate for a buff, you do know that he's in the game. But because he's so useless and really not very effective at all, he's not got many good synergies, if any at all, except from with Void, who he himself is a little bit of an older champ. So I think Sentry's in at 5 because that you could say that he's not on the list, which is why he comes in at 5. He's definitely not the most forgotten about champ, but he's definitely up there. In at 4 is a champ who is very similar to the last champ in a degree, to very similar to Sentry, as he desperately needs a buff. Is known as one of those champs who is terrible, but still needs one. But you do forget he's there. Again, he's a terrible defender. Literally nothing is good about him. You never see him on paths. YouTubers never use him and never talk about him. And that for me is Beast. Beast is one of those who, again, falls into the category of not known, not talked about, no good synergies. Just an old champ who needs a buff. And unfortunately, maybe the side quest recently being the fact that it's from, the sort of artwork is made up from Beast, or at least is centered around his genius, could maybe give you a better idea of Beast being in the game. But before then, if you see him, definitely for me it happens where sometimes I see him, I think, oh, I forgot about Beast. I forgot he was in this game. Could be a good champ, has a lot of abilities that could be really cool. He could just be a hard hitter, but he's just not, and unfortunately that is why he comes in at 4. I think he's a little bit forgotten. Yeah. In now at 3. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll create a list of every champ from every class. However, if you look at the Mystic class on my screen now, champs I thought about, Unstoppable Colossus, well, he's sort of rammed down everyone's throats about how you can buy him with loyalty. Morningstar, a champ who you see a lot on the defensive areas, and is on a lot of paths. Then I thought Iron Fist, well, he's one of those who has a relic now, so he's not so much forgotten about. Very similar in the sense to his immortal version, which is in I believe it's max sig crystals. So there aren't actually many mystics who could have got on this list. So unfortunately, there aren't any mystics who get on here. Even champs like Loki and Doctor Strange, they have a big Marvel presence, like an MCU presence, that you just don't forget that they're in the game. So they're not so much forgotten, they're just rubbish. So the champ is actually again in I'm checking out the site's tech class because I wasn't sure if I was going to tell you guys why there's no tech on here. That's just because the champs like Iron Patriot, Silver Centurion, those champs who mimic Iron Man, I don't really count because they're sort of either they're similar to Iron Man, so they're not so much forgotten about, or maybe it feel a bit of a cheat. So unfortunately, there's no tech and mystics. But with no further ado, let me get into who's in at number 3, and that is going to be a skill champ. There are a lot of skill champs to pick from here, so in the end I went, who is the most forgettable in my opinion? And for me, I just feel like it has to be Elektra. Again, not a very good champ, doesn't have many skills. You never see her on a path because she isn't a good defender, and all her abilities are easy to evade, or dex like all of her special attacks, so they're never going to clip you if she's like one of those champs on an unblockable path. She has no sort of counters on the offensive end, so she, you're not going to rank her up for that reason. She's not good in battlegrounds or any sort of long form content. She doesn't have any good synergies with anyone because, again, she's an older champ. You can see when they're older champs because they've got these terrible synergies where it's like all champions gain critical damage rating, which is just pointless. So she was a bit of a forgotten. I was torn between Elektra, and then with Elektra, I was thinking about Night Thrasher. I thought Night Thrasher's a little bit of a forgotten champ. I don't really know too much about him in the comics. Is he a bit forgotten? But I thought he's on a few paths because his SP1 is annoying. So I've sort of kept him off this list. But yeah, Elektra's who comes in at number 3. Just a bit of a forgotten champ all over, really. And unfortunately, I think that's sort of why she's made the list. So yeah, she comes in at 3. Let's jump into who's in at 2. So in at 2 is one of those champs who is useless, doesn't have a lot of abilities, don't think she's amazing. Haven't seen her too much on sort of Twitter or on YouTube or any of those areas where people talk about her. And it's another mutant, and it's Psylocke. I think she's got abilities, but like her, and the reason I made this video was because the champ who's at number 1 I saw, and I thought, I actually forgot you were in this game. I haven't pulled you as a 6-star. I don't know if I've got you as a 5-star. And then I thought, maybe I can create one of these videos to be a little bit of interest and see who you guys think are forgotten champs in the comments, and just go through that, a little bit of something fun. So then I was going through the classes and thinking, who is there, who isn't there? And then I thought, Psylocke. I remember her from early paths, because she's an older champ, so she's on older paths, Act 3, 4, 5, and I thought, she's just forgotten. She's not a great defender. She's not a great attacker. She has abilities, but she isn't used very often. She's not good in battleground. She's not ever used in that. She's not good for much for questing, and she doesn't have any synergies. All her synergies there. She's an old champ, so she's got the old synergies. I think she's one of those, like the champ who's in first place of this list, and the reason I made it, she's just forgotten. And for me personally, I forgot she was in this game. If you told me to name 100 champs, she wouldn't have been one of them. So let me know if you agree with second place, and we'll jump into who's in at first. So coming in at first is a Cosmic. We've not seen a Cosmic yet. Funnily enough, I actually was thinking of making this video, and all because of this man. And it is in fact Airwalker. And he's one of those who, he's not necessarily a bad champion, but he's got the power of Galactus, as you saw there, with the Dark Tides, and the Dark Tides can be cross fights. But and I guess Gallon potentially makes him more known because of his synergy. But I remember I was just looking through my cosmics thinking, okay, I needed how the cosmic tech from the Hunting for Hercules videos, you know, where I've started to see, you know, how many cosmics and how many techs do I actually have left. Do I have enough? Surely I'm close to the end. And I remember looking and I was like, Airwalker, I just completely forgot about him. And then I thought, okay, I won't start this video yet. And then 2 days later, I watched Seaton's video on the Eternity of Pain run, and Airwalker rocked up, and I thought, he said, oh, I forgot Airwalker was in the game, and I thought, me too. So he's definitely somebody who comes in at number 1. He's forgotten. I saw the biggest YouTuber in this community say he's also unknown, and I thought, well, if I'm thinking it, he's thinking it. I wonder how many other people have forgot about Airwalker. And another champ who's average at best, doesn't really benefit too much, never gets spoken about in tier lists, never gets spoken about in top 10s or underrated champs or synergy champs. So I think he's going to be my number 1. He has some good abilities with the Dark Tide and the fact that he can get that Herald with Gallon. But yeah, he's my number 1. Most forgotten about champ because I literally forgot he was in the game. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys agree with this list, who I've maybe missed out, who you always forgets in there. What I've thought about was champs like Captain America, Iron Man, Loki, Doctor Strange, those champs who aren't very good. I just thought, because they've got that MCU presence, players coming from being interested in Marvel and MCU will know about those champs quite heavily. So that champs like them and Null and all these big, well-known champs in the comics can never really be forgotten, because although they're rubbish, people will always think, God, he's rubbish, I wish he was better. So that's sort of my reasoning for this list. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.